Every day, Florida's first responders risk their lives to protect the people of this great state. They are courageous men and women with a spirit of service calling them to help those in danger. They may wear different uniforms, but they are all part of a united team, working together to keep Florida safe during all types of hazards, including wildfires.
In Florida, wildfire season is 12 months a year. Lightning capital of the world, 20 million people, so there's a lot of potential. We run about 4,000 fires a year across the state, so you're going to have fire in your community. And the key there is you can't get ready once the fire starts. You have to be ready ahead of time. You have to know what to do. You have to have your fuels treated or your defensible space, your home ready for wildfire before it starts. And that's the key is making those calls, making that effort, building that bond between the first responders and the homeowners so that they're prepared. Once wildfire starts, it's only hours or minutes. You will have very little to no time. And without being prepared ahead of time, it makes it very hard for us to safely protect your home.
We have had some very large fires here in Florida. People who haven't lived here that long may not be familiar with that. But when we get a bad fire season, we can have fires that are over 100,000 acres. Several years ago, I remember we had to evacuate an entire county in Florida because of fires. So it happens. It doesn't happen as often.
Florida has a lot of unique challenges when wildfire strikes. Fire can burn very rapidly as we have a lot of available natural vegetation due to our climate that will burn. Even green things burn in Florida where it doesn't in other areas of the country. But we're also a peninsula, and we have a lot of effects by wind throughout the day in Florida and throughout the year. Between wind and low humidities, when we have not a lot of moisture in the air, and then you get those windy days, which is many days of the year in Florida. When a wildfire starts, it can become almost unmanageable. We can do a lot of things to try to stop it from spreading, but oftentimes it can burn out of control.
Just because a wildland fire doesn't happen on your property or is in close proximity, embers can travel miles sometimes, and in the right specific conditions, and everything has to be just right, relative humidity, wind direction, they start spot fires, and before you know it, it's on you, and now your property is on fire.
The wildland-urban interface, put very simply, is where nature meets development. Many people want to live in a natural area. They desire a close relationship with the forest, grasslands, other wildlands, and that's for recreation. That's for the sheer beauty of it, to see wildlife, for recreation, hunting, fishing, all of those different things. And when they move into those areas and build homes, that comes with some inherent risk that they may be affected by wildfire. And we do everything possible to mitigate the damaging effects of wildfire when folks move into that urban interface area.
I find it very easy to think about keeping my home fire safe. There are a few things that might be pointed out to you about heights of limbs and distance of coverage of undergrowth and this sort of thing. But you keep the place cut back, wide open. You don't leave things exposed that will help to feed a fire. And basically it's just common sense.
Every wildland fire we prevent as an agency and collectively is one less fire that we have to fight, one less fire that puts firefighters at risk and also threatens the citizens and visitors of the state of Florida. We also work in wildfire mitigation, which is reducing hazardous fuels and reducing the hazard of wildfire, which helps protect our communities, our landowners, our homeowners, and ultimately our firefighters as well, through a safer working environment when wildfire does strike.
Knowing that I've helped and this community has helped first responders is wonderful. These are people that are going to take care of us, and it behooves us to take care of them. They are going to come here and protect us So you don't stand in their way. You try to open the door for them. You try to help them and do everything you can for them. It makes you proud, makes you happy.
Residents who live in areas where homes intermingle with undeveloped natural areas are often unaware that by living close to nature, they may also be living on the edge of a wildfire disaster. Understanding the risks associated with the natural living is the first step toward adapting and thriving within Florida's fire-prone landscape.
I think the most vital link is people understanding their risk and doing what they can to minimize their risk. There's different things people can do just based on their ability and where they live.
Well, they need to look at the area immediately around their home. Within 30 feet next to the house, they need to go out and look. Are there accumulations of dead vegetation that could fuel a wildfire? Is there brush and trees very thick and close to the house? They need to look at clearing these areas back and creating a defensible space between the side of their home and the wildland areas.
When we talk about a buffer zone or a defensible space, we want something at least 30 foot in width around the property so we can maneuver our vehicles in, our brush vehicles, which are a light fire truck, and also so we can bring our structural firefighter engines in and position them in a way to defense the structure itself.
If you look out at the grass that leads back to the woods around the side and the back of my house, I've been pushing a little bit at a time, pushing the woods back. Every time that I mow, I cut another 6 inches or a foot. If a little shrubbery grows up on the edges, I'll chop that off. We've been, over a period of years, moving the woods, moving the fuel, if you will, away from my house, giving us a more wide open area. There's access for the vehicles to get in here. There's access for the firefighters to get in here. And there's less access for the embers and the flames and so on to get to my house.
One of the most effective ways homeowners and communities can address their overall wildfire risk is through collaboration. The National Fire Protection Association's FireWise Communities program provides a framework for neighbors and first responders to work together and take action now to prevent losses.
Well, this is a collaborative effort between local, state, and federal resources, if there, and homeowners, where they look at addressing their wildfire issues, determine what their level of risk is, and then come up with agreed upon solutions to reduce that risk. Homeowners can really benefit because it gives them some say and some control about where these fuel reduction projects are done, and it also gives them a voice with their local government.
We decided to become a FireWise community basically because of the area that we live in. There's so many trees. And we went to meetings, and then we found out how to go about doing it and talk to our neighbors, and so we started a FireWise committee, and then with that committee we went into getting ourselves involved.
If the homeowners can help us in advance of a fire by taking steps necessary to make their home more fire resistant and give us a safer working environment, it's us working together that can help eliminate the loss of structures in Florida due to wildland fire.
By understanding their risks, many homeowners in Florida have been empowered to make simple changes on and around their homes, not only to protect themselves and their families, but to make the areas surrounding their homes and neighborhoods safer and more accessible for firefighters and other first responders.
The advice that I would give someone for their landscaping and for their house is to have someone come in and have it assessed and see what you need to do, take things down, put things in, and that would make you feel more comfortable and in living in a FireWise community.
Some very easy things that a homeowner can do to create that FireWise landscape is to start picking up and cleaning up any fallen leaves, leaf litter, debris, pine straw, sticks, and twigs. All of these are continuously falling, so you want to keep them cleaned up away from the house, off the roof, and out of the gutters. And then trimming up shrubbery and bushes. It's very simple to go out and just trim it up and remove that material, take it completely off of the property and dispose of it so that it doesn't pose a risk by being accumulated on the ground next to the house.
Fire season is year-round, so there's no time like the present. Go ahead and start preparing now to make your home safer.
for me, it's very important for the community to be aware of the area that you live in, and that we have the community in, and what they can do for their own responsibility for their property.
If the community is organized and works together and speaks with one voice, your local government is more likely to hear what you're saying. So when you attend meetings together and you speak out and you talk to them about the issues or concerns that you have as far as water supply or access, you're much more likely to get action taken by working together. Additionally, if one homeowner is putting forth the effort to clean up their yard and make it fire-wise, when an adjacent homeowner does nothing and has overgrown plants and leaves and vegetation everywhere, then their fire risk also becomes your fire risk. So you really need to have everyone involved and on the same page when it comes to fire-wise landscaping.
Forestry, fire, and the citizens here do it all together as a community, and it makes us all feel like a community with those people. It's wonderful.
Taking the time to remove and reduce wildfire hazards on and around homes in wildfire-prone areas is but one of 3 major components in wildfire preparedness. The next step includes preparing oneself, family, and pets for any possible future evacuations.
In emergency management, we preach more of an all hazards preparedness for the citizens, whether it be hurricanes, wildfires, anything along those lines. We preach for them to have a family plan and a go kit, because if the order is given for an evacuation, we want you to move now.
We have a package together, basically, that we can grab. We grab that, we grab the dog, and we're out the door. It's that simple.
So we encourage families to have at least minimum of 2 evacuation routes out of their area, due to the fact that you never know where that event's going to be taking place, whether it be a wildfire or anything along those lines. Your primary evacuation route may be blocked, so we encourage you to have a second means to evacuate if possible.
In the case where you find yourself involved in a wildland-urban interface incident and you have special needs, we ask that you have a prepared plan so that you know what you need to pack, specific medications to your condition, whether it be medical equipment, and also know when to get out and make a decisive choice to leave.
If our citizens are prepared with a family plan and a family disaster kit, it's going to make that time for that evacuation much easier on the resident, because they're going to know what actions to take and how to move and where to go to.
Pretty much covered.
Emergency management's role in a larger wildfire that's going to require evacuations has many facets. Obviously, we want to get messaging out to our citizens. We've got to set up shelters, and then also logistically support the fire crews that are in the field doing the suppression efforts.
So if you do choose to live in nature or out in the country in a wildland-urban interface area, we want you to go ahead and have that plan to get out quickly, make a conscious decision to go ahead and leave, and do not linger at your property.
We encourage our citizens to reach out to their local government agencies to register for the mass notification system, either through email or phone. It's a very easy process to register. Otherwise, the only means of notification you will get during an evacuation is through social media or press media, which could be a delay in the process during the evacuation.
I think the most vital link is people understanding their risk and doing what they can to minimize their risk.
The key to our success in wildland fire suppression in Florida, but also around the country, and one thing that we do really well here in Florida and in the South in general, is working together with our fire department and emergency response partners. We're most effective when we're collaborating together, we're planning together, we're training together, and then when we fight fire together, we're not meeting each other for the first time when the incident happens. We have a relationship with those folks, and most success happens because of those close working relationships, not only at the working level, and that's very important, out there in the communities, but also at the state level. State leaders in the fire service work very, very well together in Florida, collaboratively, to make sure that we're limiting the chances of damage and destruction due to wildfire.
Once wildfire starts, it's only hours or minutes. You will have very little to no time. And without being prepared ahead of time, it makes it very hard for us to safely protect your home. And opportunities to not only put firefighters in risk, but lose more homes that are there if we don't do our mitigation work ahead of time. So I say to the landowners, make that call. Call the first responders, call your wildfire mitigation specialist. Have a plan and be prepared before wildfire comes to you.
It makes me feel like I know what's going on around me and I have a plan. If you have a plan, you're going to be more confident.